the piece about losing my best friend Jimmy, losing Kurt, losing my father. I waited. That was the last piece that I wrote because I was afraid to write it, you know.
Dave, it's Dave from the UK.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave. Nice to see you. Listen, let's go for 16 Grammys, 2 Emmys, 7 UK number one albums, a career that spans all the way from Nirvana's Nevermind in 1991 through to the Foo Fighters' Medicine at Midnight in 2021. And now you have turned your considerable talents and your words, restless creativity, to literature. Dave Grohl, the Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music is out now. What inspired you to take on this project of this kind at this time?
Wow. First of all, thank you for the most incredible bio I've ever had written in my entire life. I appreciate that. We had finished making the Foo Fighters record, Medicine at Midnight, and it was our 25th anniversary last year. So we were getting ready to do this world tour. We were going to take the show on the road, do stadiums all over the world, and then everything shut down, right, in March of last year. And I'm creatively restless all the time. I always need something to do. I always come up with some sort of project. So when everything stopped, I was just like left with absolutely nothing to do. And I panicked. I can't just like make lasagna for my kids 5 nights a week. I have to be able to do something. So I started this Instagram page, Dave's True Stories. And I just started writing these little short stories about these incredible experiences I've had for no reason other than to have something to do, but also give people like maybe 6 or 7 minutes of joy in an otherwise very dreary day. After a few of those stories, I thought, okay, well, I think we're going to be here a while. You know, and nobody knew how long this lockdown, how long everything would be closed and shut down. So I thought, well, maybe it's time to write a book. And I'd been asked to write a book before, and I'd considered writing a book before, but I never had the time. So I just started writing. You know, I didn't write in any chronological order. I was writing in this short story format. And had a great editor, and she would assign me stories, and I would write them and send them back. And it was so much fun. I loved it. Both of my parents were writers. My father was a writer. My mother was a creative writing teacher. So, you know, the act or the art of sitting down and writing, I've always loved, but I just never had the time to do it. So I did.
Well done to you. And it's quite the read. Although, Dave, some years ago on an MTV show that I was hosting, you helped me wax the legs of a 19-year-old lad from the studio audience. And I am shocked that has not made the final edit of your book. What?
This is the challenge. I mean, honestly, it was a challenge to decide what to put in and what to leave out.
Yeah.
I wrote an entire chapter about about waxing, but it didn't make the cut. Next book, Storyteller 2, or I'll just write an entire book on waxing strangers' legs on MTV. I could do that too. Honestly, it was a challenge to decide what to put in the book because there's no way. I mean, I was 300 pages in and I hadn't even mentioned the Foo Fighters yet.
Wow. Okay.
Like I'd gotten that far and I'm like, oh my God, like I've been in this band for 26 years and I haven't written one lick in this book about my friends. But then I realized like, you know, there's no way to put it all into one book. So we had to frame it in a way that it made sense in the arc of the story.
I'd be interested, particularly as you mentioned, you know, your parents were writers, the process, as it were. Was it a case of sticking Post-it notes with kind of buzzwords up on the wall? And did those buzzwords relate to specific stories? When you realized you wanted to make this into a book, were there the Dave Grohl top 3? That has to go in from Nirvana. That has to go in from the Foos. This about being at high school. Or did you kind of feel your way through it a little more kind of?
Well, you know, it's funny. When I started that Instagram page thing, before I had the idea of doing the book, I made a list of 30 or 40 stories that I would write for my Instagram page, from like getting into a car accident when I was young. And that's a hilarious story, to, you know, deeper, more personal things. And when I signed up to write the book, I just handed the list to my editor and I said, okay, you tell me what you want. And she would just assign me a couple stories and say, all right, you have 2 weeks to write those 3 stories, go. And I would write them. I couldn't imagine the structure of the book yet. I was just writing these things. But yes, I mean, obviously there's some things that were very important to the story. Joining Nirvana, seeing my first concert when I was young, the people in my life that I've lost that I was really close to, becoming a father. It's like all of these things. I knew they had to be in the book. I just wasn't sure how they would be sorted out. Some of it was really easy. And most of these stories I've told 1,000 times to all my friends, and they're sick of them. They're sick of hearing about the time I was hitting the head with a golf club, or sick of hearing about the time I got to play drums with Iggy Pop, or sick of hearing, there's so many of these stories.
Oh, not the swing dancing with AC/DC again, Dave. For heaven's sake. Yes, you wrote a song with one of the Beatles. We know that, Dave.
You have to imagine that as I'm writing these things, I'm like, oh God, I hope someone doesn't know this story.
When you talk about the kind of serious, weightier things that come to us in life, which are the death, the untimely deaths of people that you love, and on the opposite side of that, you have the birth of your children. I'm a father to a little girl, one of the most incredible moments, and all parents will know that. Did you find that quite a therapeutic experience? Did you find it helpful to put it down in print, so to speak? Did it feel nice to let that out there for people to read and hear how you were feeling inside?
Yes, absolutely. The piece about losing my best friend Jimmy, losing Kurt, losing my father, I waited. That was the last piece that I wrote because I was afraid to write it, And in a way, I sort of knew what everyone wanted me to write, and I didn't want to do that. So I was just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to write this particular piece? And I waited. And when I hit send on it, I realized, oh, I've just written a book and I'm finished. And so it was a really emotional experience. As you're writing these things, you're seeing your feelings, or you're seeing your thoughts on paper. It has a new life. It's almost like hearing yourself speak back. Some of it was kind of tough, but I read the book for the audiobook, like the audiobook that you can also.
Yeah. I'm a massive fan of audiobooks.
Right. I've never listened to an audiobook in my life, but I had to do one. So I had to read the entire book. It was really hard, man. Like, it was just me and a microphone and a box of tissues. So there were parts where I honestly felt like, the studio engineer was my therapist, and it got ugly. It got a little ugly, but I feel good that I let it out. For sure.
Well, absolutely. And that's what, people are going to take from the audiobook, particularly with that delivery, and take from the paper edition as well. Dave Grohl, the storyteller, Tales of Life and Music, is out now in hardback, ebook, and on audiobook, read by the great man himself. Dave, it is always a pleasure to see you, even if it's in this kind of Zoomy way. And congratulations on a fantastic book, and such an incredible life, and there are so many highs in here. There are so many emotional, touching moments. This is a book that's got thrills, and it's got a real heart. So I'm really pleased that you did this, and this is another one of the few things we can put down as a positive from COVID-19 and a global lockdown. Dave Grohl, I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Take care.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to see you. Take care.